Hey Lisa,
Hey, Jamie.
welcome back everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Pivot CX Expanded Plus. We're so happy to have you all back listening to another episode with us. And Lisa, it's so good to see you, but I'm pretty bummed. Most people don't know this because we didn't mention it on the first episode, but you were actually here in Houston when we recorded that. You stayed with my family and I for a couple of weeks, and while I'm still excited to continue to do this together, it's just not the same. We miss you.
I know you're so great for having me at your house for 2 weeks, slumming it at your house, but it was my birthday too, and y'all made it very special for me during quarantine. And I never thought I would say this my entire life, but I kind of miss Houston.
Yeah, you do. It's not so bad.
Honestly, though, Jamie, I probably wouldn't have left, but you had that wasp problem, so I had to get out of there.
I still have a wasp problem, and I think we have a really good potential candidate for someone that we can help with their customer experience because this isn't an ongoing issue. Pest control at my house. And yeah, so I'll let you know when the wasps are taken care of so you don't have any more scares while enjoying your coffee on the front porch, and you can come back.
I appreciate that.
So today we're going to talk about what is CX. We've had some inquiries from people that learned about the podcast or know about our consulting agency asking, well, isn't that just customer service? So today we really want to focus on the difference between CS, customer service, and CX, customer experience.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really good topic to talk about because a lot of people do think that customer service is customer experience, but they're two completely different things.
Absolutely. And they can have very different impacts on the success or failure of your business. So, I really think that one easy way to start out by thinking of it is customer service is an instance. It's a thank you, have a great day. It's a hello, how are you? Can I help you? If you have an issue when you're calling into a customer service line, it's an instance. Whereas a customer experience is a journey. This is a much longer, it takes a lot more investment, it takes a lot more effort, but it can produce a much bigger return. So one of the things I like to tell people in our experience workshops is a true customer experience will leave your customers feeling guilty if they ever even consider using one of your competitors. Now think about that impact. If you've ever been really loyal to a brand or to a person or, for a hairdresser, I know a lot of women can relate to that. The thought of going to somebody else, you really get a little bit nervous because you're like, eventually I know I'm going to go back to her and she's going to know. It's almost like you're cheating on them. And that's really a good customer experience will drive that into your customers and really help produce this long lasting relationship, which of course turns into more revenue for your business. Forbes says that customers that have a positive experience are 5 times more likely to continue to purchase from that brand, but almost equally, if not more important, they're 4 times more likely to refer a friend. So it's just growing your customer base and expanding your potential for revenue because of a positive customer experience.
I think that's a really good statistic to share, Jamie, because we all know that word of mouth travels quicker than anything. And good word of mouth is so impactful these days, with online reviews and how easily we can communicate with social media and all our technology devices. So I think that's a really good statistic to share with everybody.
And I know you had been doing some reading, I think on a blog or something, and you found something really interesting. Everybody knows about Zappos. If you don't, you've been living under a rock. But I think it really kind of struck a nerve with you given this current initiative that, we're really trying to drive with our podcast. So I'd love for you to share that.
Absolutely. So what I read was actually from, I think it was Super Office, and it was an article, and they were talking about customer experience and the emotional connection that you need to make with your customers. So I was reading the story about this woman who had some shoes that she was supposed to return, and she was late on returning them. Well, Zappos found out that her mother had passed away. And so what they did as a company, they decided, we're going to take care of her return shipping. They paid for it all. They sent a courier to her house to get the shoes. And then they didn't just stop there. Once she returned home from the funeral and spending time with her family, she came home to a beautiful bouquet of flowers and a note from the customer success team, is what they call themselves, and just giving their condolences. And it warms my heart. It gives me chills just thinking about it, because they could have just taken the shoes and said, okay, thank you, but they took that initial step to exceed expectations and to provide the customer experience.
Yeah, when you told me about that, again, I'd kind of heard some about Zappos and read about their journey, I think many years ago, but it kind of ignited something in me that I wanted to look into it a little more. And a really cool thing I read was that they interview all employees twice, one for your business role and one for whether or not you fit into this customer experience culture that they have. And I think that's so important. That's one of the things that we always talk to companies about is it's a lot harder to try and ingrain this in employees that have been there for a long time, and this is a new kind of approach for a business versus starting it from the time they onboard, whether it's your human resources, whether it's their hiring manager, their trainer, really ingraining that culture of customer experience. And one of the things they said was there's no script for phone calls, and there's no time limit, and that some people will even be on the phone with a customer for 6 hours. Are they talking about the sale? Are they talking about shoes? Probably not, but that's encouraged, and that's on their website. And I thought that was so neat that in this day and age, when everything is, time is money, time is money, they're really showing, no, the customer is what we value here. And I think it's that type of experience that has really helped to make them such a success.
I never knew that about Zappos, and that's incredible. I mean, without a customer, you don't really have a business, right? So for them to train their staff to take care of their customer first, that's amazing.
Yep, absolutely. And we talk about sometimes the foundation. You have to have good customer service, absolutely. And I give you the example when we were talking about this the other day of shopping at a retail store. So if you go into any chain retailer and they say, good afternoon, how are you? I'm good. Can I help you find anything in particular today? No, I'm just looking around. You go to checkout. Did you find everything okay? Yes, thank you so much. Have a great day. That's good customer service, right? It's positive interaction. They're trying to be helpful, seeing what you need. But I've been to places, I know in Dallas, like in Bishop Arts, where you walk in and you're greeted and they hand you a glass of champagne and say, please look around. Here's what you can find in this section. Here's what you can find in this section. And I'm going to be over here if there's anything at all I can help you with. Bam, like from the get-go, you have an experience. You're not just going into another retail store and shopping for a pair of jeans. All of a sudden, I think I might take my time in here. I think I might just see what everything they have to offer because they just made it so warm and inviting for me. I think that's really a good example of the difference. I know my husband always uses the barbershop example. You can go to a lot of chain barbershops and just go in, get your hair cut. They'll do a great job and leave. Or you can go to some of these more boutique like barbershops and they really take their time. They do the scalp massage, the steamy towel. They might offer them a beverage or something. And it's really about creating that experience and making people want to come back because it's different. It's not what they can get anywhere else. And it's memorable. It's something that they take with them when they leave.
Right. And with that, with it being memorable, he's gonna refer people to his barbershop. Hey, guys, come, you should go check out, whatever the place is called, and have the works done. I want to go. Can I go to the barbershop? Can women go?
I know. Sometimes I feel like he gets a little better treatment than I do, but maybe I just haven't found the right hairstylist since moving to Houston.
Well, my hairstylist offers me wine, so
That's nice. So circling back to something we were talking about earlier, which is I think it's really important that you really search to find those people that really have a sense of doing something for somebody else without expecting anything in return. If you can find people with those kinds of traits, those are really going to be the people that help you deliver an exceptional customer experience and help you drive that culture throughout your company and to the other employees that they're working with.
So, Jamie, weren't you just on a Zoom call with your company and y'all had a special guest on? Do you want to tell everybody about that?
Yes, that was an exciting day this week. So the company that I work for full time, they had Eric Huan, who's the CEO of Zoom, on for a special town hall that we had. And it was wonderful to hear. Obviously, they have grown tremendously over the past few months. And I never really knew that much about their company. I've used Zoom for years. I love it. I work from home, so I live in Zoom. I'm in Zoom meetings all the time. And I never really knew that much about the company. And so listening to him talk about some of the things they do and how they really try to drive a fun atmosphere. And one of the things that they focus on is keeping their employees happy. And you've managed employees, I've managed employees. You know what a daunting task that can be. And so it really was interesting for me to hear some of the initiatives they do. For instance, in their office, they did, instead of a bring your kid to work day, they did a bring your parents to work day. And they would do this regularly because what they found is that people still had this desire to make their parents proud of them. And so it really kind of boosted morale to have that and kind of know in the back of your mind that it's coming soon. You know, your parents show up, people are like, oh, your son or daughter's done this, they've done that, and really make them proud. It's almost like you're back in school and you're showing off your artwork to your parents on, parent teacher night or whatever, and you don't want the teacher to tell them like that you're doing anything bad or you're any kind of disappointment. So I thought that was really neat. And I was lucky enough that I was able to ask a question, and it was focused on exactly what he said, because that example really stuck with me. But I said, given that you don't have an office, right? Well, you have an office, but you don't have people in that office right now. How are you still able to keep that same culture alive doing everything virtually? And I really appreciated his response because obviously this is on the cuff. He didn't know I was going to ask this question. And he said, we really try to focus on the well-being of our employees. When they're in the office, we can try to make sure that they're happy, but when they're at home, we need to make sure that they're healthy. And he said one of the big things that they've been focusing on is mental health, because so many people really depend on that social interaction, and they had a big concern for those that might have some issues being isolated at home, isolated from society for so long. Even really people with no issues, no underlying issues, can suffer because we're just in such isolation right now, and we have been for so long. And so I thought that was so neat that he said we've instructed all of our managers like to constantly be reaching out and talking to their people more than they would if they were in the office. And so I found that to be so reassuring for a company to really show how much they care for their employees and to still be driving that even amid all this chaos with how much they're growing, how much busier their entire staff is, that's still a priority. And you can see that reflected, in their Glassdoor statistics, for instance, on, how much people enjoy working for their company. And I think that's really driving a lot of their success. It's why there's other competitors out there that do the same thing that haven't been nearly as successful as they have during this pandemic.
I think that's wonderful to hear. And circling back to what you said, even people who don't have a history of mental illness or, problems like that, where it still can arise in this unknown pandemic that was going on. I even had some anxiety for the first time during all of this. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever actually felt anxious before, really. And so I think that's great that they're focusing on their internal customers, which is their employees, which that can be a whole nother episode of.
I think it will be.
I think so, because taking care of your customers is one thing, but if your company takes care of its employees, then they're going to take care of your customers who are driving your revenue, right?
Yeah. We saw that a lot in the private jet industry. And this is just the example that we use often, especially me, because that's the industry that I've worked in for so long, is whenever you would have a pilot who was angry and just a little nasty, like just rude, didn't need to respond that way despite the situation, you always knew that 99% of the time, the person they were working for had very similar traits. And that was really eye opening for me, even as a very young working professional, was seeing how that impacted those people, everyone down. It trickles down from the top down. And so when a company understands that and they really engage with their employees and try to create that atmosphere of positivity, caring, doing things without expecting something in return, I think they're really going to see a big turnaround and a big difference in how their overall business is impacted. So this has been a fun episode. I know that we're going to still touch on this more in the future, but hopefully our listeners have a better understanding of the difference between customer experience and customer service. And we're really excited for our next episode. We hope that you will all listen again. We're going to have a special guest on who's going to share her journey about trying to start up a business right as this pandemic hit. And she's going to share some of her journey and some of the tips and things that she's been doing in order to keep that dream alive. As you all know, we close out each segment with Could You Be Any More Awesome? Our company spotlight for a business that's nailing it in the customer experience realm. Lisa, last week you featured a nutrition shop in your area that you had a great experience with. This week I want to share an experience with a local restaurant here in my area, Murray's in Dickinson, Texas. It's a great little restaurant that some friends turned me on to when we first moved out here. My husband and I went and tried it. It was amazing. The food was amazing. The service was amazing. My husband still says that's the best steak he ever had in his life, and he's a pretty big steak critic. And it was a great experience. Like they brought out a box of knives and allowed him to choose which knife he used to cut his steak, and they had all these different varieties, and they had explanations and the history kind of behind the knives, which was really cool. And it's beautiful. They have swings at the bar, and then they also have like a patio downstairs. I've taken you there on one of your visits before. But really, the true experience for me came during this COVID-19 isolation, because my husband and I celebrated our wedding anniversary, and we weren't able to go. We usually try to do a trip, and we weren't able to obviously travel. So I called Murray's, and I wanted to get him his favorite steak for dinner. And I talked to the owner, who answers the phone all the time if you call up there, which does make a big difference. And he just was so sweet. And he said, "Oh, well, because it's your anniversary, we have something special we want to send over." And so not only did they deliver our dinner, dessert, we were able to get some cocktails to go. They also threw in a bottle of champagne with rose petals and a really sweet note that said happy anniversary. So we've always had great customer service at Murray's, but it was crazy that at home they also delivered this amazing experience, literally and figuratively. They delivered a great customer experience. So shout out to Murray's. Thank you guys so much for making that such a memorable anniversary, and I hope that you guys are successful for a long time, because we really enjoy your restaurant while living here.
That's so exciting. I love that. I saw all your pictures and I didn't realize that they had provided the rose petals and the champagne.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Such a sweet touch.
So if you know a small business that we should feature on Can You Be Any More Awesome, you guys can tag us on Instagram. It's pivot_CX, or you can tag us on Twitter at CX Pivot.
Yeah, and you can also go to our website, value-elements.com/pivot. There's a submission form there you can fill out to nominate any business that you think is killing it in the customer experience world. So we're so happy that you all listened. Anyone that is listening and viewing, I want you to pay special attention. I mentioned earlier that I work from home, so I live in my office. Lisa has just set up her office yesterday at home. So let's monitor. Maybe we'll have a little game to identify changes week over week. I think that plant wasn't there 10 minutes before we started the podcast, so I spy that first. We'll see what other changes we have each week. Can't wait. I know you're gonna make it really special.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so excited to set my office up with you guys.
Well, thanks again, everybody, for listening. We look forward to talking with you on the next episode of Pivot.
Thanks, guys.